Micks.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Two Mix, our holiday edition. Uh, had some great games today, and Mike, you know what? Christmas came early for us with Kentucky beating St. John's.
Well, they did. First off, Jimmy, it's good to have you back.
Good to be
Glad
back.
glad you're feeling better, and Spencer did a good job filling in for you last week, but it wasn't
Didn't
quite
have
it wasn't
any,
quite the same, was it?
didn't have any doubt in my mind.
Yeah, he
Spencer's a
did.
good kid.
He did good. So, but I'm glad you're feeling better, and glad you're back in action. And I had a great Christmas. Did you have a good Christmas?
I always have a good
Yeah.
Christmas, family and friends and everything else. Always.
Yeah. So we're taping this the day after Christmas, and it's been a lot. It's been a while since I've talked to you. So yeah, definitely a lot to go over. And starting off right away, we haven't had a chance to talk about the Cats and the Tale of Two Halves,
You're
Jimmy.
talking about the St. John's
And
game.
let me make your acquaintance because
I like
acquaintance.
that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, let me tell you what. He made his presence known and real quick. And all the talk about him and how he was probably a lottery pick, I think we saw that. And the best part about it is it was a glimpse.
That's saying a man among boys.
Yes.
He showed it in that
Yes.
game.
And I was really worried that first half. Of course, the Cats came out and they couldn't hit anything as they've been pretty much the whole year. Jalen Lowe comes in, plays 7 seconds, and pops his shoulder back out. And so I was really worried we couldn't hit. St. John's was really bothering us with their pressure, and we were turning the ball over, and we were down 7 at halftime. Exact same amount we were down against Indiana.
Yep.
But then, like a true champion, Jalen Lowe came out in the second half and really put the team on his shoulders. Quaintance came out, and you could just tell. It's the first time we saw the team at full strength.
J. Lowe's the only true point guard we have this year. We have to have him in the lineup.
We do well. I say that we have to have him to put us in the elite type of talk. We're definitely we were preseason top 5 with this lineup, with the lineup we saw in the second half. And I think if we'd have seen that lineup from the very beginning, we would not be in the situation we are in right now.
I like our situation. I think the guys understand that they can get beat, and they have to come out and play every day. And I think the one thing they're doing is they are playing good defense, except for Gonzaga game. I can't explain that one. Don't even want to explain it. But other than that, their defense has been pretty good all year long.
Well, I think the big thing is if you think about Gonzaga and kind of some of the disappointing defeats, we couldn't score. And part of the reason we couldn't score is because they just smothered our three-point shooting. And we don't have guys that can necessarily create their own shots out there like, Chandler and Williams and things like that. But once Jalen Lowe got into the game and was running the offense, you had Quaintance that they had to worry about down low. It just opened up the offense.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you what,
Yep.
Cam Williams, I think, is the shooter we've been looking for.
Yes, he is.
And I'd heard a lot about him being a heck of a shooter at Tulane, so it was great to see him come in and really over the last 2 games against Bellarmine as well. He almost set the record, the Rupp Arena record, Jimmy. He almost beat Tony Delk's record of all people.
I know
So yeah, I mean, I tell you what, it was so fun to watch that second half, and you could tell the team just like this big monkey just came off of their shoulder. Like, here we are. This is who we really are. And it was fun to watch. It was because the first half was not fun to watch, Jimmy.
No.
It was not fun to watch at all.
And the thing about it is, Mike, they can't live in the past because they've got a tough game coming up against Alabama starting conference play.
Yeah, right into the fire. But I feel a lot better now
Yeah.
than I did
I
before
guarantee
that
you,
second
Pope,
half against St. John's.
I guarantee you Pope feels a lot better. And the thing about Alabama has been battle tested. They've had a tough schedule already.
Yeah, they've had just as tough a schedule as we have.
Yeah, they played Purdue, and they didn't know Purdue was going to be number 1 when they played them, and they played St. John's also.
Played Arizona.
Played Arizona.
That was their last game was against Arizona, and that Arizona clobbered them pretty good. In fact, Spencer and I talked about that last week, about how they went and beat Auburn pretty easy, and then they went and played Alabama the next game and beat them pretty easy. So we talked about how good Arizona is, but yeah, I mean it's right into the fire when the SEC conference, because basically now I kind of break the season, always college basketball, into 3 chunks of seasons. You got the pre-conference schedule,
Yep.
you got the conference schedule,
Yep.
and then you got the tournament.
Yep.
And you're obviously trying to improve throughout the year and get better, and then be ready to go and be tough by tournament time. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to go in and get a win in Tuscaloosa that first game. So I don't necessarily expect them, even though we're playing better, I don't necessarily expect them to go in and get a win there, but I do feel more confident about our chances now. So we'll see what happens. It's fun. Fun again, Jimmy. It was fun to see him hit shots and have a guy down low that can, establish himself down low offensively. Man.
And let's not forget our neighbors. Our neighbors, Louisville starts their conference play against Cal on the 30th of December. We start January 3rd against Alabama. And this is something that I wouldn't have, this time of year, I wouldn't have even thought it. But there's not a single SEC team in the top 10, Mike.
Yeah, well, speaking of the top 10, it really didn't change a lot other than Duke lost, did you see that game? Duke was up 17 points, I think, with about 6 or 7 minutes left in the game, and Texas Tech stormed back and beat them. So that surprised me a little bit.
You think I feel bad about that?
No, I don't either. You know my opinion about Duke. The only thing that's good about them is the U and the K between the D and the E. But other than that, the top 10 pretty much stayed the same. It didn't change at all. Duke was up there at 3, so everybody just moved up, and then Duke fell down to 6th.
And I tell you what, but depending on who they play, Arizona and Michigan could swap places at any given week.
Oh, and I still think Duke is one of the elite teams too, even though they
Duke's
took that
looked
loss.
good this
Yeah.
year. I gotta and I tell you a team that is going a little bit unnoticed. I think North Carolina is a lot better than they have been in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a loss, but they look good.
Yeah, they're going to be all right, and I still think it's a shame that if we'd have been full strength, I think we'd have beat them by 15, 20 points in Rupp Arena.
In Rupp Arena, yes,
Yeah.
we would have. We should have won that game.
Should have won it anyway,
Yeah.
but I feel like if we were full strength and had what we saw on the floor in the second half against St. John's, I don't think we lose that game. I don't know if we'd beat Michigan State, but I can guarantee you it wouldn't have been like what it was.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a close, tight game. Same thing with Gonzaga. I know they came in and pummeled us, but
35 points.
yeah. But so anyway, Louisville starting conference play on you said December 30th, right? Yeah, they start a few days earlier, and it's kind of weird because this is kind of the time usually we're playing Louisville.
I know it.
And
Usually,
yeah.
Yeah, New Year's Eve a lot of times, or a couple days before, and I just that game needs to get back to where it has prominence in the college basketball world, because CBS used to be prime time, like Louisville and Kentucky's playing. And now we're playing on a Tuesday night.
Well,
come on.
I think the landscape of college basketball and television is different now, because even the big games like Duke against North Carolina is on ESPN, and CBS doesn't have the kind of the grip hold that they used to on the college basketball. But I agree, it's nice. I mean, even we played that first game of the year. It was exciting because both teams were early, preseason ranked, and it's good to see that rivalry back to where it should be. And so
I think it is with Kelsey there. I have a lot of respect for Louisville's coach.
He's a great coach. I really like him a lot. I like his energy, and I think he's doing a great job at Louisville. And I still say, Jimmy, I think we'll meet again in the tournament. I just feel like we'll meet again this season. I don't know.
There's a good possibility.
It always seems like that happens.
Mike, while I was gone, was there any football games?
There was some football game. Well, there was 2 college football games and then 2 that really weren't games, but which is going to be a little topic of our conversation today about the teams that got in, the teams that didn't get in. But yeah, the quarterfinals are now set for the college football playoff, and Alabama 17 points down to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Your team all year, Jimmy,
Sleeper team.
Oklahoma.
It was
Yeah.
a sleeper team.
And they looked like, talk about a tale of two teams as well.
Yeah.
They looked like they were just going to get land blasted, and everybody that said Alabama shouldn't have been in, and I give them a lot of credit, man. They showed a lot of fight. They didn't get down and just said, chipped away at this lead, and they really just dominated the game after that.
I don't think a lot of people realize that Alabama had a lot of injuries when they played Georgia in the SEC.
Oh, totally.
conference
Yeah,
game.
yeah. And I tell you what, of course, I'm kind of looking ahead here. I'm really looking forward to that Alabama-Indiana game.
That to me is the cream of the crop as far as games. Um, you know, I think that Ohio State's going to beat Miami. I think Georgia's going to beat Ole Miss. The Oregon Texas Tech, that's going to be a little bit of a barn burner.
I think that's going to be a great game.
But
yeah.
You're right. The Alabama Indiana game, you pick one, I'll take the other one. That's how that game is.
Yeah, I think the big thing with that game is going to be, is Indiana going to have a little bit of deer in the headlights type of thing? Because, even though they made the playoff last year, they didn't really play. They played in the first round at Notre Dame. Being in the Rose Bowl, and I haven't ever been to the Rose Bowl. My dad's been to the Rose Bowl,
Yeah.
and it's a different kind of aura around it. I mean, it's just So Alabama's been in a lot of those big games like that. Indiana hasn't. And I tell you the other thing that if you look back at the playoff last year, the teams that had the bye didn't do real well in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And really having all that time off without playing a game can be detrimental to you. It really can.
Now, my dad had a rose garden, but he never went to the Rose Bowl. But I tell you, the Alabama-Indiana game, Indiana showed me something when they played Ohio State, that they have got a heck of a good defense.
They're very fundamentally sound.
Alabama's defense came on in the second half against Oklahoma, and it boils down to the two quarterbacks. Can Ty Simpson come up? Can he elevate his game against Indiana?
Yeah.
Because Fernando is going to.
Well, I think
the Heisman Trophy winner he's going to play well.
Sure. Well, I always say that in these big games, and not to sound like the average pundit, but it comes down to the offensive and defensive line play. What happens in the trenches, and Ty Simpson's a good quarterback, and Mendoza's obviously a really good quarterback. If you give those guys time, they're going to make plays.
Yes.
So the team that can protect their quarterback and give them the opportunities to make plays, it really does always come down to the offensive and defensive lines. Now, it'll be interesting to see. We've said all year what Indiana would do in the SEC. Not to take anything away from what they've accomplished, but because they have beaten some good teams. But the grind of the SEC week in and week out, to me, is it's a deeper conference. So I think Indiana will perform well, but I think it comes down to, are they going to get pressure on Simpson, and is Alabama going to be able to get pressure on Mendoza? That's really what it comes down to. But I'm looking forward to that game. It's going to be a lot of fun to see that.
Yeah. So you started out about two of the blowouts, and we're talking about Tulane and James Madison.
Right.
Are you under the same impression I am that they need to change it, and just because you win a conference doesn't mean you should be in the top 12?
Right. Well, the one thing they are changing already next year is the same situation wouldn't happen to where two small conferences get into the playoff. That was one of those things that just happened because kind of weird stuff happened with the ACC, their tiebreaker, and how Duke got in, and then Duke pulled the upset. And that's how they got in. Next year, if we had the same situation next year, Notre Dame would be in. And they should have been. Spencer and I talked about this last week when we were kind of previewing the games. And this is what we had worried about. I mean, they were boring games. They were two blowouts, and nobody probably tuned in. And this is supposed to be the pinnacle of college football. It's supposed to have the 12 best teams and have the opportunity to see some enticing matchups. And we were talking about it. If you would have gone just straight on the rankings, you would have had Notre Dame playing against
Oregon.
now Notre Dame would have gone and played Ole Miss,
Oh, okay.
and then Oregon would have had to play Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, talk about two marquee matchups that would have brought in ratings, and it just that's to me what should have happened. And next year, you're only going to have one small conference team to get in. But Nick Saban talked about it, and I thought this was a really good point. He said he feels like going forward that these small conference schools shouldn't get an automatic bid unless they play 3 Power 5 teams outside
Yes.
of their conference. And if they go undefeated or, 11-1 or something like that doing that, then they deserve to get in. But, James Madison, the only team that they played outside, in the Power 5 was Louisville. And they lost.
Yep.
Not taking anything against Louisville, but, they lost to Louisville by a couple touchdowns early in the year. And you just really can't gauge how good they are. And I can guarantee you this, like Oregon was a 21.5-point favorite. I can guarantee you if Oregon played Texas, it would print a pretty close spread. In fact, a lot of people probably would pick Texas in that game. So, yeah, I think definitely they need to look at that and come up with a better scenario.
And Texas plays Michigan. Of course, Michigan doesn't have a head coach right now, but that game's going to be coming up in one of the bowl.
Are you talking
games.
about in the bowl games?
In the bowl game, yeah.
Well, we didn't talk about the freaking defensive battle against Texas A&M and Miami. What did you think about that game?
I thought exactly what you just said. It was a defensive battle. And Texas A&M has won a few games ugly this year like that.
Yeah.
And but it was a good game. It was a good game to watch. It was exciting.
If you like a defensive struggle.
If you like a defensive struggle. Of course, we can talk about next week when all these games start towards the weekend. But Ohio State playing Miami. Miami better score a few more points.
Well, yeah. Well, the one thing about that, my thoughts on Texas A&M. If you look at Texas A&M, and this is not taking anything of what they did during the season. But they probably played the weakest SEC schedule of any team in the league.
Yeah.
And they played Texas at Texas. They got beat pretty easy. They did have LSU on the schedule, and at the beginning of the year, that was going to be a team
Tough
that,
game.
yeah, they played Auburn. Auburn at the beginning of the year seemed like they were going to be better. So that they really didn't play. They didn't play Alabama. They didn't play Ole Miss. They didn't play Georgia. They didn't play any of the top-tier teams in the SEC. So I think
I don't think they even played Kentucky, did they?
no.
You
And
gotta
by God,
play
they would have taken a loss there.
Oh, you got to play Kentucky.
So they got a little lucky with their schedule, but I was a little bit surprised that Miami beat them, but I did think that Miami was going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. I definitely didn't expect it to be a 10-3 game, and man, both teams couldn't kick a field goal to save their life either.
And that's the thing about having Tulane James Madison in there. Miami beating Texas A&M, all right, maybe a little upset, but nothing major.
Right.
But if Tulane or James Madison had beat Texas A&M, oh my goodness, they won't invite Texas A&M back again.
No.
I mean, it would have been. But yeah. So, what do you think about what's coming up, Mike?
Well, kind of going along there, what you said. Of course, the big thing to me was if Texas A&M had won that game, then Ohio State would have had to play Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl in Texas, but that didn't seem to bother Miami having to go to the 12th man. But I definitely think Ohio State will win that game. I think it'll be a decently close game, but I think in the end Ohio State will beat Miami, probably end up beating them by a couple touchdowns. But, again, of course, Ohio State didn't have as big a layoff as some other teams because they played in their conference championship game, but I wonder how that layoff will affect them.
I think Ohio State's mad about getting beat by Indiana, and I think they're going to come out rocking and rolling. I think Ohio State will beat them by about 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just think Ohio State has more talent. But the one thing about Miami that you have to think about is they got Carson Beck, who's a veteran quarterback who's been in a lot of big games. So I think they have a chance.
Yes, I
You know,
agree.
just
They
like
do
I
have
thought
a
they had a
chance.
chance against Texas A&M, I don't think they have as much of a chance against Ohio State. But
Yeah.
I think, you know, obviously Miami proved a lot of the people that said they shouldn't have been in. I think they proved it. Obviously, to go to
Well,
Texas A&M and get the win,
they
they
made it
deserve to
to the
be in.
second round. Yeah, they did. And then our next game, the Orange Bowl, the Texas Tech at Oregon versus Oregon.
Man, that's going to be a battle. I think that's going to be a great game. I haven't seen Texas Tech play as much as I have Oregon.
Got a good defense. I think Texas Tech is going to beat Oregon.
Yeah, I think I would probably pick that, but I think that Oregon kind of has this chip on their shoulder. And the thing that impressed me about Oregon, I was kind of a critic of Oregon early in the year, and they really impressed me with some of the gritty wins that they got towards the second half of the season when they went into Iowa and they beat them in a gritty game. They
Yeah.
went into USC and they played USC at home and beat them. They beat somebody else that was
BYU, they beat twice.
no. You're thinking of Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Oregon.
Oh, Oregon.
Oregon,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I really think that's going to be a really close game, and I kind of just feel like Oregon might pull off the little bit of an upset. I mean, it's 4-5.
Yeah. That's
But I don't know. I think that's a coin toss game, really, to be honest with you.
yeah, but I'm going to go with Texas Tech on that one. Indiana and Alabama, Mike.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, who you want?
I know a lot of people are high on Indiana, and they should be. And the way that they went in and beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. And I think Alabama now kind of has the pressure off of them. I think DeBoer has the pressure off him now that he got a win in the playoff. He made the playoffs. He got a win in the playoff. He beat Oklahoma, which he had lost to twice.
Yep.
So now I think Alabama will go in and play with a lot less pressure. And I kind of have a feeling that Alabama might pull the upset in this, Jimmy.
Believe it or not, I'm going Alabama.
Yeah, I don't, and that's not taking anything away from Indiana. I worry about that layoff for them and having a whole month off after the conference championship game. They are, Indiana this whole time, even all the way up until that conference championship game, has been kind of the underdog. Like, oh, now they're the hunted.
Yes.
Now they're the team that's expected to win.
Yep.
The pressure has reversed, so it'll be interesting to see how they perform against an Alabama team that kind of got that monkey off their back, is used to being in these big games, is battle-tested throughout the year. Their schedule was brutal. And I really think if Alabama is healthy, I haven't heard a lot about some of their players,
they're
but
healthy right now.
I feel like Alabama is. I'm going to pick Alabama in a close one.
I'm going to go Alabama touchdown.
Well, touchdown, a full touchdown, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
A touchdown.
Yeah. But I will say this about Indiana, though. This whole year, whenever I've picked against Indiana, they have played really well and have proved me wrong every time. So Hoosiers, here's your chance again to prove me wrong. So and you get a chance to take out an SEC team. So I will give you a full salute if you go in and in the Rose Bowl take out an Alabama, a tough SEC team, and definitely give you a lot of kudos for that. I give you kudos anyway. I mean, what Cignetti's done there this year and last year has been amazing.
Yeah.
Best college football coaching turnaround of all time.
I don't know if he should get Coach of the Year, in my opinion.
No doubt. I mean, no doubt at all.
Georgia versus Ole Miss.
Man, I tell you what, Ole Miss impressed me. I know it was Tulane, but they impressed me how they came out. Now Ole Miss played Georgia really tough in the game they played, and that was at Georgia. So I know Lane Kiffin is not there, and I'm not going to pick Ole Miss. But I'd be a little worried if I was a Georgia fan.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to beat a team twice, which Alabama obviously had to experience that against Georgia. And that was a really close game. Ole Miss has got some players. I'm going to pick Georgia, but I think that's going to be a battle. I
Oh, it
think it's
will
going to
be.
be a
It will
battle.
be. You got, and they do. I mean, Ole Miss doesn't have an interim coach. They've got their coach. The defensive coordinator from Ole Miss is now their coach. But I'm going to go with Georgia also, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I picked the Bulldogs to win the whole thing. I think Georgia is going to win the whole thing. So, um, obviously, I'm going to pick them against Ole Miss. But if Georgia wins and Ohio State wins, I can't wait to watch that matchup. Not trying to look ahead because there's 4 great games that I'm so looking forward to watching. But
Yeah.
if it plays out like it's supposed to, Georgia and Ohio State in the semifinal game is going to be a lot of fun. So, and I think they would be playing that in Atlanta in the Peach Bowl. I think that's where. Yeah, I think that Georgia would gets the. I think they play that in the Peach Bowl. Of course, I could be wrong. I'm not really sure exactly how they decide that.
It's
but
50-50, either the Fiesta Bowl or the Peach Bowl.
Right. A lot different though for to play Georgia in Atlanta as opposed to out in Phoenix. So we'll see what happens. But
and then the championship game will be January the 19th, and that'll be in Miami.
Yep. We'll have Crown and all the talking and everything else will be done. And no matter what we think, whoever wins is going to be there. So last year I would not have. It was a Notre Dame and Ohio State, and I wouldn't have guessed those two teams, especially the way that Ohio State ended the year with the loss to Michigan and Notre Dame. They kind of barely got in last year too. So. So they were one of the teams that beat a team in the second round against the bye, took out Indiana at home. So we'll see.
And we can't go into NFL unless we talk about 2 of the local teams that won bowl games this week.
Definitely.
Louisville beating Toledo, and they had a little brawl.
They did, unfortunately. Yeah.
It was sort of exciting. And then Western Kentucky won their bowl game also.
Yeah. Congrats to the Cards and the Toppers. Both, I think they played on the same day. They played back-to-back on TV, didn't they?
They sure did.
So, big, always a good way to end your season, even though it's kind of, I think the shine on bowl games are not as much now with the playoff because everybody wants to get into the playoff. But, it's always great to end your season with a win. And have your seniors go out with a win, and to get a bowl game champion. Did you see the trophy for I think it was the one that Western won, the New Orleans Bowl? It was huge.
Yeah.
It was a huge trophy.
Yeah, it's almost better than the Pop Tart.
Exactly.
Give out this weekend.
So, what was that one year that the Kentucky played in the Mayo Bowl or something like that?
Yeah.
And they poured mayonnaise over Stoops. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
So, anyway, congrats to both those teams for getting a bowl win. So, looking forward to all the games, and it's going to be a lot of fun, Jimmy.
Oh, it always is a lot of fun.
Definitely. The only sad thing about it is that football season's almost over, and that always makes me want to shed a tear.
Well, but then we get into some basketball and derby and
when
stuff.
I really shed a tear, though, is when the college basketball's over, and then there's to me, the Sahara Desert of sports for about 2 or 3 months.
Then you always got the NFL. Speaking of NFL, were there any games that I missed this week?
There was some good ones, and obviously we're down into the home stretch and a lot of playoff implications going on. Of course, the big one last week that we haven't had a chance to talk about was the Seahawks and the Rams. Did you see the 2-point conversion that looked like it wasn't a 2-point conversion? Of course, the Seahawks were down 16 points in the fourth quarter and came back to beat the Rams in overtime. And that crazy 2-point play, I don't know. What were your thoughts on that? Did you think it should have counted?
I think if it wasn't for instant replay, it wouldn't have counted.
Oh, no, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt. But it was just so the guy that picked up the ball was just giving the ball to the ref. He didn't even realize he was scoring or he wasn't even doing anything.
In the replay it counts, but boy, if they didn't have replay, that game would have been over and the Rams would have won.
And the Rams would still be the number 1 seed. And that's the thing, that game was for the number 1 seed. Of course, there's still a couple games left to play. I
think the Rams are looking good on making it to the Super Bowl this year, in my opinion.
Well,
of course, I also picked the Lions and the Ravens.
Right.
Neither one of them are going to make the playoffs.
Well, the Ravens still have a chance.
They're not
They
going to
still
make
have a chance, which we'll talk about here in a minute.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
then the other big game was the Bears taking out the Packers, and then not only that, but the Packers lost Jordan Love to a concussion.
He's in concussion protocol
Yeah.
right now, and that'll be a game time decision.
Of course, now that's not as big of a, of course, we're filming this the day after Christmas, and yesterday the Lions were eliminated by the Vikings because the Lions basically had to win their last two games and the Packers had to lose their last two games for the Lions to get in.
Yeah.
But since the Lions lost, now the Lions have been eliminated and the Packers are clinched in. It's just a matter of what's their seed going to be at this point.
There goes one of my Super Bowl predictions.
One of your
right?
Super Bowl predictions is out, and then the other one is hanging on by a skinny little thread, Jimmy.
I think that thread's got a tear in it too,
Mark. Talking about moving on to that with the Ravens, your other Super Bowl pick. Of course, they lost. They took a loss to the Patriots, and Lamar was looking good in the first half. They had a lead in that game, and just snake bit all year. And he got hurt at the end of the first half, and then the Patriots just took over. And
they had two fumbles. Derrick Henry fumbled again, and then somebody else.
Yeah, man,
he's
had fumbleitis all year. But yeah, that was a tough loss. Not only because they lost, but then losing Lamar again. They're just not the same team without Lamar Jackson, obviously.
No,
and
even the whole offense is set up around Lamar.
Yeah. So if they would have won that game, then they would have been right there with the Steelers, and there would have been the matchup at the end of because they play each other the last game of the year, and ultimately now, since the Steelers got the big win last week over the Lions in a crazy play too, that was a crazy play at the end of that game.
That one was, especially the way the refs did it. The ruling on the field is a touchdown, but since time's run out, it doesn't. It's like, what?
Well, what happened was there was an offensive penalty.
Yes.
So the offensive penalty negated the touchdown, and then the time had run out. It was the last play of the game.
Yes.
And they only play another play if it's a defensive penalty.
Yes.
Since it was an offensive penalty, that's why the time ran out and the touchdown was nullified.
The way the refs handled that, it just made it look like, what? Now what's happened here?
Yeah, some kind of conspiracy going on. But
yeah.
I technically, when you saw the replay, it was offensive interference, but I've seen them let players get more physical than that and not call it. I was kind of I understood why they called it. I just was one of those things to where I just felt like it could have been a no call, but they called it, and that was the end of it.
They called another play like that in one of the games yesterday, and I can't remember which one it was. It might have been the Chiefs and the Broncos.
Yeah, I didn't see that game last night.
It's like, now what are you guys doing? All of a sudden, you're just calling these little offensive. And did the same thing. Did like that to the guy.
Little push off, yeah.
Not much, just enough, But anyway, the refs called it, and you're not supposed to argue with the refs.
So, but with your Ravens, though, Jimmy, even with took the loss and the Steelers won, they can still get in. Now, what has to happen, it's probably pretty far-fetched. Of course, it looks like Lamar's not going to play this week. And then they're going to have to beat the Packers, of all teams.
Okay.
And then the Steelers will have to lose to the Browns this week. Okay. So if that happens, which is not likely, then the game next week when they play each other will be for the AFC North to go to. It'll basically be a playoff game.
Don't forget, though, the Browns did beat the Packers earlier in the year, so anything's possible.
Well, anything is possible. And, hey, I would love nothing more than the Steelers to get beat and then the Ravens to have a chance to get in. I'm not a huge Ravens fan, but I loathe the Steelers.
And,
so being a Bengals fan, I loathe the Steelers. But
I'll tell you a team that you've been high on, just sort of like I was high on Oklahoma in college. You were high on the Jags, and they went in to Denver and beat the Broncos.
Yeah, beat them like a pulp. It wasn't even close.
At Mile High.
Yeah, at Mile High. The Jags are good.
Yes.
They're legit, and Trevor Lawrence is playing really well right now, and they have a solid defense. So yeah, don't rest on the Jags. I still, they're obviously going to get in. It's just a matter of now whether they're going to win because now it looks like the Colts are out of the contention of winning the division, so it's going to come down between the Jags and the Texans, and I think that they may play each other again before the end of the season.
But you gotta give Rivers kudos.
Old man Rivers.
Old man Rivers.
He's still got a nice arm.
He's played pretty good, and actually, I think the last game they played, the 49ers, Purdy was on fire. But I think the Colts defense let Rivers down. I mean, Rivers did all he could, in my opinion.
The defense didn't let him down against the Seahawks the week before because they kept them in the game. But then, the 49ers just went through them like hot butter. I don't know what changed happened, but of course, Rivers kept them in the game, and obviously it didn't work out. They actually still have a chance to make the playoffs. What they're going to have happen, they have to win their last 2 games, and then the Texans have to lose their last 2 games. Yeah. So they're in the same situation that the
Ravens are in.
Well,
or the Lions.
Well, the Ravens have a little more control of their destiny, but the Lions were in the same situation. So probably not going to make the playoffs. But hey, I've seen stranger things happen. So who knows?
Another playoff scenario and a real tough one is the Panthers and the Bucks.
Yeah. Well, the Panthers got the win over the Bucks at Panthers. It was a really good game. I watched that game. And so now they play each other the last weekend of the season. But since the Panthers got the win, they're a game ahead. So the Bucks have to win this week.
They play the Dolphins.
Yeah, they play the Dolphins. They have to beat the Dolphins and then beat. So basically, every game from here on out for them is a playoff game.
They play the Panthers the last game, and it's at the Buccaneers Stadium.
So with the Bucks, they have to win, and then it doesn't matter. Then the last week will come down to that game. If they lose and the Panthers win, then it doesn't matter what happens that last game. But if the Panthers lose also, then it still comes down to that.
The Panthers play Seattle this week, so the Panthers have a little tougher game than the Bucks.
They do, but they are playing that in Carolina. So we'll see what happens. But, I have a feeling that it's going to come down to that last game. And if it does, I want to see the Panthers get in just because they've suffered so much the last few years. But I have a feeling that just at the end of the day, it's going to come down to that last game, and the difference will be Baker Mayfield playing in Tampa. But who knows?
Right now, the teams that are in the NFC, Mike, who you got?
Well, right now in the NFC, Seattle is, if the playoffs started today, that with the Bears dropped down from the 1 to the 2. So the Seahawks are the number 1 since they beat the Rams. Actually, the Rams were the number 1 seed last week. Yeah. And then they won that. So the Rams actually went from being the overall number 1 seed and dropping all the way down to the 6th seed today.
Don't close your eyes.
Right. But if the Seahawks were to lose to the Panthers, I think they'd be tied again, because I think the Rams and the Seahawks already played earlier in the year, and the Rams may have won that one. But I can't really remember for sure. So, but you got the Seahawks, Bears, and Eagles, and Panthers right now would be your 4 division winners, and then the 49ers, Rams, and Packers would be your 3 wild cards if the playoffs started today. And with the NFC, with the Lions losing, it's pretty much going to be those teams, other than possibly the Bucks and Panthers switching out if that played out. But it's going to really come down to just where everybody's seated at this point. So
in the AFC, there's a chance that the Colts can still get in, like we said.
Yeah, the only 2 teams that still have a mathematical chance is the Ravens and Colts, but they're going to both need help.
The big thing about there is who gets the number 1 seed, either the Broncos or the Patriots. There's another Vrabel could be up for Coach of the Year if he gets. I think if he gets the Patriots number 1.
Well, I think him or Cohen from the Jags should be considered.
Or Ben Johnson from the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of really big turnarounds this year, and you could even make a case for Sean Payton. I mean, if he gets them to the number 1 seed in the AFC and going through that tough division, there's a lot of guys that could definitely be considered for Coach of the Year this year.
Not going to get it. Can do that.
There's several of them I can tell you who are not going to get it.
But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So, but in the AFC, right now, if the playoffs started, you have the Broncos, Patriots, Jags, and Steelers as your division winners, and then the Chargers, Bills, and Texans are your wild cards.
Yeah.
So I think the Bills and the Chargers are in. The Texans are the only ones that can be knocked out by the Ravens or the Colts. Actually, I think they can only be knocked out by the Colts because the Colts would have to win their last 2 games and the Texans would have to lose their last. The Ravens can only get in if they win the division.
Yep.
So we'll see how that plays out, Jimmy. It's an exciting time of year, playoff football.
And yesterday's the Chiefs lost to the Broncos in Arrowhead, their last game of the season, and it doesn't.
I heard Travis Kelce was crying before the game, so they're saying that that's a sign that it's his last game at Arrowhead.
Either that or it's a sign that he's pissed and he's going to come back again and not end his career on that note.
Well, he kind of did the same thing
last
year.
He might have been crying because he's marrying Taylor Swift.
Well, I wouldn't cry about that, but I don't know.
I
think he's probably going to retire at the end of this year, and I think he'll go into broadcasting.
I think he will go into broadcasting, but I think he's going to come back for one more year.
I don't know, man. He'll be 37 next year, Jimmy.
Yeah,
and
but
he actually had, this was his best year in the last few years.
I just don't think that he wants to end his career the way it ended. I really don't.
They all want that, Jimmy.
Well, yeah, but some of them know when to go. Like Peyton Manning, when he won the Super Bowl, he left. Like John Elway. Now Brady should have quit that 1 year after he got the Bucs a Super Bowl.
Probably.
And then there's some of them that they're still trying to win a Super Bowl. But anyway, yeah, Kelsey's had a good career. He ranks like 3rd on.
I think that would be,
end.
to be honest with you, I think that would be the only reason he would come back for one more year is to try to break the tight end records. Because I think if he came back for one more year, assuming he didn't get hurt or anything like that, and he played a full season, I think he would end up being the number 1 tight end in terms of all the statistical categories. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, it's a very physical game, and to be that age is people don't see the off season of what those guys have to go through to get their bodies prepared too. It's a grind.
It's a physical game to get out of bed.
Right.
In the morning,
exactly. So imagine if you'd been playing 15 years of NFL football,
yeah.
Jimmy.
And then, of course, the Cowboys won yesterday, and Dak said he's playing the last game out of pride. He wants to win it, which I respect that.
I do, too. Burrow's doing the same thing. I kind of thought they might shelf him.
And then the Lions, of course, got beat by the Vikings, which surprised me. That game really – I don't know. The Lions have surprised me this whole year. They're learning that they shut down Gibbs. They shut down the Lions basically with their offense.
Well, I tell you the thing that really kind of baffled me, and I think Dan Campbell's a really good coach. There's some things he does that are a little weird, and obviously they've been in the mix the last couple. They had one of the top offenses in the league, and for some reason in the middle of the season he decided to take over the offensive play calling. And it really seemed to affect the team.
First game he took over, and then
but I think they played somebody who wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But they just have struggled offensively, seems like, since then. And I think if you're going well, why mess with something that's going well? I just don't understand that.
And then in Dan Campbell's also, he lost Ben Johnson to the Bears, and we saw how important Ben Johnson must have been to him last year.
Right.
And then he lost the coach that went to New Orleans, his offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Well, you're only as good as your coordinators, that's for sure.
And he lost 2 of them from last year. So I don't know if he's going to make any changes at those positions. I don't think he should. I think give him another year because, it's not like they had a disastrous year. It's just –
No, they'll be back strong next year, and I think they'll be in the mix again. I think the biggest thing with them as well wasn't necessarily that they dipped a whole lot. I think the division got a lot better with the Bears. The Bears have been atrocious for the last several years, and the Packers have gotten a lot better. And even the Vikings. The Vikings, even though they were the bottom of the division, they were a tough out. They were a solid team. So I just think the division top to bottom is a lot harder, which affected it as well. But he'll get it straightened out. He's a really good coach, so they'll have to kind of evaluate some things in the offseason, but they'll be back.
Yeah.
Maybe you can pick them for your Super Bowl again next year.
Well, we'll see. I won't wait on that. Mike, are there any games that intrigue you this coming? Well,
Well, when you get to this time,
Saturday
yeah,
and Sunday.
when you get to this time of year, it's either very meaningful games or just toilet bowls.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to. So, the kind of the games that have some implications. A big one for seeding is going to be the Texans at the Chargers, because I think if the Texans were to win that game, that it would bump them up and the Chargers down. And the Chargers, I think, may still have an outside chance of winning the division.
Possibility.
If the with the Broncos losing to the Jags
Yeah.
last week, I think the Chargers still have a chance. Now it would have helped obviously if the Chiefs could have beaten the Broncos yesterday, but so that's a big game. And then the Ravens at the Packers. Your Ravens, your Super Bowl pick, are on life support, Jimmy. Are they going to go in and get a win at the Packers to keep their playoff hopes alive?
I think that they're in the hospital and there's a thunderstorm hitting and it's knocking out all the power and we don't have any recovery.
Hey, and ironically, who are they playing?
The Pack.
My Packers that I picked to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you did. Who was your other pick? I don't remember.
The Bills.
The
The Bills
Bills.
and the Pack.
Hey, we haven't talked about them, but the Bills, yes, I think they've got a good chance of making the Super Bowl.
They do.
Yeah.
If they could somehow.
I tell you what, I'm going out right now. I'm saying these are my two picks for the Super Bowl as of right now, since neither one of my team's going to make it. The Bills and the Rams are going to
Bills
be
and the
playing in
Rams.
the Super Bowl.
Well, I'd say we definitely, once everything, the dust is settled from the regular season and we see the final standings and the matchups, I say we definitely have to make. I'm going to stick with who, obviously, both my teams are going to
Well,
be
you
in
have
it.
to, yeah.
But I
Well,
think
I
that
picked
I'm
one
going
of
to
your
give you an
teams.
opportunity, Jimmy, to reevaluate your pick and pick somebody new since you don't have any. You're not going to probably have any teams.
You want me to do that right now?
Well, you just did, kind of.
That's what I thought I
But
just did.
let's wait to see what.
Oh, you're giving me a little bit. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. All right.
Well,
yeah.
well, I'll give you a little bit, and you got to give me a
You
little
just
leeway
didn't like
too.
I picked the Bills. You didn't want me to
No,
do
I
the
don't have
same
anything with
thing
that.
you did. Okay.
So we'll see kind of once the seedings are done and we get to the very end, we'll definitely have to take a look at it and come up with some playoff picks.
And
about that. The playoff picks.
Yeah, the Jags are at the Colts, and the Jags, I believe, have an outside chance of making the number one seed out of that.
Well, since they beat
AFC.
the Broncos,
Yeah.
because they've only got 4 losses, and I think the Broncos have 3,
Yeah.
and so do the
Patriots, yeah.
And so, yeah, but I think the Patriots' last 2 games are not very tough. So I don't see the Patriots dropping down. But you never know. Things get wacky in the last couple weeks of the season. But yeah, that's of course that's Colts life support too. They've got to win that game in order to stay alive. Otherwise,
I'd
Rivers
love,
is out.
I'd love to see Rivers get a win. I really would. 40. What is he? 45.
44. He's 44. He's been out of the league. He was 39 when he stepped away from the league. So.
Holy cow! I'm 22 years older than
I
that
know.
guy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Jimmy, we weren't on last week. It was your birthday last week.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, you look great for 89.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. I feel good for 89 also.
Jimmy's
And-
not really 89, but we'll keep his age a secret.
And then this is a feel-good story, I think. Seahawks at Panthers, and the Panthers, with everything that they've been through, have a chance to make the playoffs. Have a good chance.
They do. You got to feel really good for Bryce Young, I
Yes.
think, because he came out of college the number 1 pick. He got benched last year, and a lot of people just talked about how it was
Didn't
a big.
Dalton replace him?
Dalton replaced him for a while. I think somebody else replaced him for a little bit too. And then, he came back in. They put him back in at the end of last season, and they ended the season last year pretty
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Of course, they were already out of everything. So he took that momentum, and I love stories like that where guys, instead of just pouting or just
Yeah.
quit working or whatever else, that use it as motivation. And really, I think we in today's society, in a lot of ways, some of these younger generation, not knocking on the younger generation, but it's like when times get tough, we used to say that our parents would have said you need to get tougher. You need to work harder.
Yeah.
And with the transfer portal and the NIL, it's like everything has been handed to a lot of them.
Hell,
And
our parents, when we're sitting down the gravel road with blood running out of her knee and elbows on a bike wreck,
Right.
you'll live.
Yeah. You'll be fine.
You'll live. But
So
this is like two feel-good stories because you got Sam Darnold for the Seahawks, who's playing for a number 1 seed.
well, they were in the number 1 seed last year in the NFC when he was at the
Yes,
Vikings.
that's
So
right.
that didn't end well in the playoffs, but hopefully he can get a win in the playoffs this year for his sake. But
And then the other game, there's a couple more. Eagles at Bills. Mike, what do you think about that one?
man, I tell you what, the Eagles did get a little feel-good win, but they really haven't been playing that well. They beat somebody that wasn't very good. Was it maybe the Commanders? I can't remember who it was they played, but they played somebody. Oh, they played the Raiders. That's who it was.
Yeah.
Blew the Raiders out. So I think that the Eagles, I think they'll be fine once the playoffs start. But they have struggled somewhat offensively, and they've been a little bit up and down. But I do think the Bills will win that game playing at the Bills. The Bills need that win more than the Eagles do as well.
Yes,
So,
they
because
do.
they have to win that game in order to still have a chance to win the division and to keep their seed a little higher in the wild card.
And another feel-good story is what, Mike? The Bears.
The Bears, the Bears, and the 49 at the 49ers.
If we had started this year and I've said, Mike, the Bears are going to make it to the Super Bowl.
Well, the
you
whoa!
probably
Now the
would've
Super Bowl.
fired.
Let's hold on a second
they've
now.
got
They
a
haven't gotten
chance.
there yet.
They've got a chance.
Are you going to pick the Bears?
No. No. But, they got a chance to be they could be number 1 seed in the NFC.
They were just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
They still
who-
could. Yeah, they still
if
could.
I had said that at the beginning of the year, you would have said
No.
the old man is off his rocker.
I did think the Bears would be better this year, but I didn't necessarily think they would be this good.
No, I didn't.
And I
either.
think that playing in the division that they play in, I thought it would have been tough for them to have this kind of season. That division, the difference between being at the top and the bottom is a very small
Yes.
margin of error. And next year it could be totally different. And it really could come down, if you think about the Bears season, and really, if you think about most the way the NFL is, there's that small margin of error. You take 4 or 5 plays and change them with the Bears, they're the Vikings instead of the Bears being
Yep.
at the top of that, close to the top of the division. So it'll be. I do think that's going to be a good game. That's like old school, man. Back 80s there, mid 80s, Bears and 49ers. Woo!
And Purdy is playing pretty good too.
He did against the Colts. 5 touchdown passes.
Yeah, they're healthy. The 49ers.
Well,
are
but
healthy.
the Kittles got hurt in that game.
Yeah,
That's
Kittle's
not
did. I
that'll
forgot
hurt them
about
some.
that, Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the 49ers will win that game though, playing out there, and they probably need that win more than the Bears do too. So and they're playing at home.
Yep.
So it's gonna be some good games, Jimmy. The playoff picture's coming more clear. We got the college football playoff. It's an exciting time to be a football fan, and a lot of great games. It's going to be a lot of fun over the next couple weeks.
Oh, yes, it is.
Definitely going to be a lot of fun. So what is there to gripe about then, Jimmy? Because there's just a lot of fun going on right now.
This is no time to gripe. This is time to be happy, to have friends, family, and the season that it is. So, Mike, you want to sign us off?
I definitely will, and like I said, I'm glad you're thankful for you, Jimmy, and like I said, this is the holiday season when it's time to be thankful for friends and family and get to spend that time, and thankful that you're back and feeling better, Jimmy, and
Good
it's
to
a lot
be
of
back.
fun, and we'll be back next week. I'm glad thank you for tuning in to our holiday edition of the Two Mix, and we'll be back next week and be able to talk a little bit more about the college football playoff. And the Cats getting ready to tip it off and the conference play. So thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. We'll be back next week. This has been the Two Mix. Peace out.